Hello everyone, so welcome to this workshop. I am Matt, I'm the coach of the O5 Girl Navy. So as you hear, English is not my native language, so I apologize in advance if I speak too slowly or if I use not the correct words, but I will try to figure out quickly and hope you will understand clearly what I'm saying. So the aim of this workshop today is just to make a discovering of the Boys Youth World Cup. And especially we are going to talk with the Under 17 World Cup, which were happened in Brazil in 2019. It was a World Cup for players born in 2002, 2003. But what is interesting, it's 99% of all the team, of all the squad of each team were composed of players born in 2002. So clearly it was very rare to see a player born in 2003 in the teams. The World Cup duration were 3 weeks from the group phase to the final. And so for this kind of World Cup, under 17 and under 20 World Cup, it happens every 2 years. So here is the team who were participating to this World Cup. So every confederation were representing, depending of the number of country they have. The winner of this World Cup is Brazil. They won the 4th trophy. So 4 times they win the Under 17 World Cup. The finalist was Mexico, and France won the first place against Netherlands. So in all these teams who were participating, 3 teams have the first participation in this World Cup. It's Angola, Solomon Islands, and Senegal. But what is interesting to see and show that every confederation try to play at the hardest and try to go as far as possible is that all confederations have reached at least the semi-final with one of the team. Regarding the US for this World Cup, unfortunately, they finished 4th of the group with 1 draw and 2 lose games. So in this presentation, not a lot of points that we are going to focus on in this summary, but really the aim of this presentation is just to have an overview of what happened in the highest level soccer event in the world, so a World Cup for this age group, the under 17 years old. So to do that, we are going to start just with a statistic, so data on especially and on the field data, so what's happened on the field. And we are going to link this statistic with trends. So what observation we saw in that World Cup in terms of style of play. And we are going to see this style of play with video clips. So what is interesting and what I try to do with this statistic, it just pick specific one. For sure, you can choose many statistics on the World Cup. If we have a look on the technical study group FIFA report, there is many statistics for all the team, but also specific to each team. But I try just to pick some specific one to focus on very specific trends. And it's always what is difficult with statistics. There is many, but we can be easily lost with all the statistics. And I try just to pick a few just to highlight key points. So we are going to start just with a little quiz. So I don't know if there is a participant. I see that we are two. If you want to try this quiz, I don't know if you hear me. It's Jared, I think. Oh, so Jared, if you are there, if you want to, you can also use the chat application on Zoom if you want just to text me if you have some question or regarding some issues that you have. It's just a little quiz about what is to see what's to test new knowledge in the World Cup. So you can connect yourself to joinmyquiz.com. It's just a very small quiz, 12 questions. You have 20 seconds to answer each question. And just to give you an overview, of what's happening in the World Cup, to test your knowledge, and perhaps you will be surprised of some answers. But yeah, this is the aim of this quiz. So what I propose to you, if you are okay, it's connect yourself to the website link that you see on the PowerPoint. I will give you the game code to have access, and after we will try to start the quiz at the same time if possible. For the quiz organization, answers will be given just at the end of each question. And at the end, you will see your final score with all the participants. So yeah, so if you have any question, any comments, do not understand to just use the chat application to note every issue or some things you can fasten with, just for me to try to figure out. So if you are, if you are connected to this website, so joinmyquiz.com, I don't know if you are already there. So this is the game code you could use to go to the little quiz. So do not hesitate to go and try to answer the little question about the World Cup. It's quite funny and quite good. So just, I don't know, could you text me if you are success to join this quiz and to start it? If you are okay to do it, or you just want me to continue my presentation and we don't do the quiz, it's up to you. So yeah, I don't know if you are already on the quiz or not. Because you have this website note and you have the game code. And after, if you are already there, you can start. Does it work for you, Ben? I don't know if you see me, if you hear me. I just send a text. I don't know if you have access or not to this quiz. So yeah, so it doesn't matter. I think I will try to keep going on the presentation. And if you have the opportunity to do the quiz later, do not hesitate. So first, just to have an overview on some statistics during this under 17 Youth World Cup, we are going to focus on one criteria per slide. So this first slide will be about possession. So what is interesting to see in this slide is the average time of possession. The average time of possession in the game for a team is between 20 and 35 minutes. So in one way, we could say that a team do not have the ball between 55 and 70 minutes in a game. So it's also give us a picture that most of the time, team don't have the ball. And so they just have the ball between 20 and 35 minutes in a game. So the question that we can think about is what teams do when they have the ball and how they use it. And how do they try to regain the ball? Because I think most of the time they don't have it. So how could they try to regain this ball very quickly? So here are some highlights that we could help to answer this question. So yeah, first of all, we see that the possession is down in the area of the field, which is the middle third. So I would say close to 50% of the possession is doing in the middle third. So it gives us a picture that teams try to really keep possession higher on the field. And if you look at the teams who regain possession, we see that it's connected to that statistic. So we see that teams try to regain possession 52 yards in the field. So they try to regain possession very high. So in conclusion, we could think that teams, the middle third is really an area teams try to lead. So in one way, there will be many pressure, many people in the middle third. So how could the teams could deal with that pressure and with that possession will happen in the middle third? So if we keep going, in terms of passes, we say during this tournament, the pass completion was about 78%. So we see it's a high score. So team have success in the pass around 80%. So it showed that there is many efficiency and accuracy from the teams. What is also interesting, if we saw on the chart, so the teams who were on the podium, so France, Brazil, and Mexico, we see that they are not in the first team, in the first team in terms of number of passes. So Brazil, Mexico, and France don't do many passes. So it's something interesting. If you want to go far in the competition, it doesn't mean that you must be the team who do more passes. Yeah, we saw too that in this tournament, the average of passes close to the half of passes were done in one touch. And also 60 passes of the pass were short. So perhaps we could connect this to last slide and say that because team keep possession really in the middle thirds, there is many people in the middle thirds. So we must try sometimes to change the pace of the game. We will try to find some combined play. So perhaps it makes sense to search for pass in one touch and clearly some for short passes. Interesting statistic too in terms of middle thirds. We saw that Brazil, Mexico, France, and Netherlands, so the team who were finished in the first place of the World Cup, they are not the leader teams in terms of final third entries. So it means that they enter in the final thirds less than the other teams, especially Brazil and Mexico. Brazil, who won the World Cup, you see they are really low ranking in terms of final thirds entries. So what is important to highlight also is that when teams enter in the final thirds, 50% of the teams try to finish in the penalty box. So when there is really a will for the team who get in the final thirds to keep forward and try to really finish the action in the penalty box. Perhaps also because we see that it could be hard to find shoot options. We see that only 20% of teams who enter in the when you enter, in the final third, there is only 50% of action who finish with a shoot. So it's really hard to find a shoot option when you enter in the final thirds. So if we remember just the slide, the last slide with final thirds entry, we saw that, Brazil, Mexico, France, and Netherlands were not the team who lead the final third entries. But now we see that these four teams lead the ranking in terms of shooting. So they shoot many times on the goals. So what we could think is that these four teams, they do not enter a lot of times in the final thirds, but they were very efficient when it's happened. And there is really a will to finish the action. When they enter in the final thirds, they want to finish the action with a shoot. So another stat who is interesting to see in that under 17 World Cups, it's that the team were very efficient in terms of target the shoot on the goal and finish. We see that every 12 shots, there is a goal. And this number is more efficient when the players get older. We see every 8 shots, there is a goal for teams who are participating to the under 20 World Cup. And we saw just before that when you enter in the final thirds, 50% of the time teams want to get into the penalty box. And it could make sense when we see the statistic that 82% of the goals were scored from the penalty box. So really clearly teams want to score from the penalty box. Another stat about set pieces. yeah, we see that the average goals per team from set pieces is only 2. So teams didn't score many goals from set pieces. It was one of the tournaments where very less goals were scored from set pieces. But perhaps we must have a look on when this goal was scored. If this goal on set pieces was scored in quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals, it could be some very important goals. So perhaps it could be a statistic that we must have a look on. So what we can take away from all this first stat that we see is also that teams which go far in the tournaments are those who take time to get through the final thirds in order to be sure as most as possible to get out a shot option. So we don't forget that we can be also in danger if we lose the ball in the final third and final thirds. So clearly the teams, if they want to enter in the final thirds, they don't want to lose the ball and to be in danger with a counter-attack. So that's why sometimes we don't enter in the final thirds very often, but because we want to really to prepare our action, but where we get into these final thirds, we are sure that we can finish this sequence with a shot. About goalkeeping, to finish the statistic part, we hear a lot now that keeper is becoming more and more on the field player. So teams want to use its foot skills, being part of the build-up phase, etc. So this World Cup is really confirmed the statistic. In average, goalkeeper do 29 passes in the game. So it's a lot, and 33% of these passes are short. If we just compare to the World Cup 4 years ago, only 10% of the passes from the goalkeeper were short. So clearly the keeper have a role in terms of build-up now. If you compare to the throw average per game for the goalkeeper with only 5, we could see that clearly the keeper use more his feet than his hands to do passing. So as we finish all the statistic data and we have perhaps a clear picture on when we could see and could take from the statistic from the World Cup and how team could probably try to play. Just before going to the trends and see video clips of how the team trying to play and what style of play most of the team do. Just want to share with you a little clip of highlights of the final to get an idea.
The Under-17 World Cup of 2019, and it is Mexico against Brazil. That might turn out very well for Mexico, and the defender's going to have to come charging across. Still doesn't get the tackle in. The simple enough stop for Donnelly. Cal Georgia, brilliant play from him. It's Piglo! Off the angle. Brazil so unlucky. Crowd roaring in anticipation there. Cross ball in, danger to the net. Mexico have the lead against all the odds here, and Brian Gonzalez has got up to head that ball down and beyond Donnelly into the Brazilian net. Azu slips it wide for Jan Koto. Back in here, Varane again on the left foot. Squares it. Where do they appear from all these bodies? They keep appearing, and that's off the crossbar as well. And then as it comes down, it's over the top. Now this is a massive, massive moment in the final of 2019. There's a possible penalty foul. He gives the penalty. It is Cao Georgia. A shuffling runner. And the ball in the net. The crowd roars as one. Jan Koto into a shooting position. The cross ball in. Lightning really does strike twice. Talk about inspired substitutions. Lazarou. Get ready to party. Get ready to samba. Brazil are the champions of 2019 and come back to beat Mexico in the final by 2-1.
So yeah, this is the highlights of the final against Brazil and Mexico. So you see very stressful final with 2 goals in the last 20 minutes for Brazil, but it was quite intense and a good final to see. So now we are going to see the trends of play, what teams try to do on the field, what was really obvious during these World Cups in terms of style of play from all the teams. So what's clearly obvious in terms of an overview of style of play from all the teams in this Under-17 World Cup is that there is really a trend to do an attacking football. So in the history, this World Cup was the second World Cup with the most goals scored in total. The first one was the World Cup in 2017. So clearly the last 2 World Cups there will a trend to do an attacking football from the teams. So here you see all the trends of play that link and that we're seeing in this World Cup. So the first trends is that we see that lots of teams use the wide area to create finishing opportunities, especially because there is all the teams are trying to defend with a very central compact block. So it was very difficult to go through inside and break lines inside. So teams are trying to really use the outside to create opportunities. And in that way, we saw just in the last slide that there is the teams try to really keep possession in the middle thirds. So perhaps by this way, they try to unbalance the opponent and create chances on the right area. So what we are going to see in the video is some sequences, some video clip who highlights this use of wide area. And you will see some trends, and we are trying to spotlight the use of the fullback, so the support of the fullback, the ability to finish from crosses, and especially how to make runs and get out of vision of defender for create opportunity to score, but also to finish in the penalty box. So here you see really the help of the fullback who go really far away from his action, some combined play, and how we could finish from a cross in one touch, really to be efficient. Here, the team's facing really a deeper block. So how we can unbalance the opponent, we see we really take the width from the blue team's France, try to search for an opportunity, and after cross and finishing inside the penalty box in one touch. Here we have more space. The block is a little higher. But yeah, look at the support of the fullback, who do run really from his half to ask for the ball. And after this cross in the penalty box to finish and be efficient. So clearly we see in that video clips that depending regarding the position of the block of the opponent block, if it's deeper or higher, really the aim is to use the fullback to create 2v1 situation or find a killer pass breaking the lines, and after find a cross in one touch or two touch in the penalty box to have a clear finishing. The other trends we want to highlight is this World Cup. It was that we see really an increase of dribble per team. There is an increase of 49% of dribble during this World Cup compared to the last World Cup. So clearly, teams are trying to take risk, take initiative. Players are trying to take risk and initiative to unbalance the opponent. So now the question is when they try to do it, where and how they create this 1v1 situation. So you will see in the video several criteria that we can highlight to answer this question. So first, really clear opponent is, you see the first touch to make the difference and run with speed with the ball. It's clearly some things that we saw a lot in this World Cup. After you see really in that way, really some fake dribble, step over. The first touch to be clearly towards the goals, and after skills, ability, agility in a very tight area to make the difference. Again, we will have an option with player who winning the ball, and we will find a higher player. The first touch was important, and after I can run with the ball, really quick, make fake, really dynamic, use also the top of the body. You will see here how we can use our arms and our body to protect the ball. You see, use the arms, really dynamic, fake, try to draw an opponent in a way and go in the other way. Yeah, also here, what kind of words I could make. And run with the ball very clearly, keep the ball close to your feet. This first touch to make the difference. Use the body, use your arms, keep the ball close to your feet. Agility, dribble, skills. So it was clearly something we saw a lot during this World Cup with really incredible player agility and skills. So we saw that teams use the wide area a lot to try to unbalance the opponent, but another way to unbalance the opponent and also enter in this final third, that we see lots of teams try to enter in the final third and go until the penalty box. The way who are using is the play ball behind the defense, and especially if there is a deep block, how you can exploit bad alignment from the defense, but also how you could you find pocket space, create 1v2 with and find pocket space with a killer pass. So that's some things who are very obvious during this World Cup. So you see here, first this killer pass. How could we find this killer pass in a very tight space, a pocket space? Took advantage for the forward to the bad alignment. Do a run between two players and give the ball in another space. So here we see this ball, the killer pass with very pace, and after the run of the opponent between two players, and the ball was given in another space. Here also combined play between two players. What is really interesting from the forward is how you can here get out of vision of the defender. First, he was in front of the defender and he made just a simple run not to get behind. So get out of vision is clearly a key option from the forward to try to unbalance. And also manage the tempo of his run, the pace of his run, not to be offside. And after, we saw this killer pass really with pace, giving in the run of the forwards, not too far away. So yeah, a combined play, so checking, one touch, and give the ball again with really pace. So the quality of the killer pass, of the assist pass is very important. You see the change of the tempo, and this pass is perfect in the run, and after clear finishing. Now, different attention, we are facing really a deep block. So the teams will get back. And everybody is concerned. So you give your ball, but after this ball, you are already concerned, aware of the game. So this player, after giving the ball, come inside, make a runs, and will try to make a runs between the center back and the full back, who is clearly a space that is difficult to defend from defender. And after, the quality of the pass, long ball this time, long ball behind the defense, the first touch and clear finishing. And you see people coming from behind, coming from far away is really difficult to defend. If you have a player come from far away, it's hard to defend from the defense. So clearly that's an option that could be used from the team. Secondly, we have what another trends of play was noticed during this World Cup is how team defend on corner. There is really, we see just 2 goals score in average score from set pieces from per team, so really a few. And what is really noticed is that teams were really good defending on corner during this World Cup, especially by using a zonal marking. So yeah, just to get a clarification about zonal marking. So yeah, if we compare, it's really simple, but we have man-to-man. So clearly we defend the man and not the ball. Zonal marking is clearly first your focus is on the ball and not on the opponent. And a lot of teams do this kind of zonal marking with putting many density close to the goal, especially in the first post, with really number of players, and perhaps to just 3 or 4 players do man-to-man. So here is a video just to show you what could happen in the game. So here you see clearly lots of people in the first post, 4 people, lots of people in a density, in a small density. And you could see that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players who are zonal, and perhaps 3 players who are individual, try to do a man-to-man with the green team, against the green team. And especially do zonal marking in the first post is to defend clearly on the ball who are going on the first post. Second option, we saw clearly that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players who are zonal, really protect their goals, and just 3 players who went man-to-man. And if we have a look, clearly there is 3 players who are close to the near post in zonal. So clearly it was an option for the Japanese team to have lots of people in zonal marking. And you see, just they look at the ball and only the ball. They don't look the opponent. So clearly the first focus was defending the ball and not the opponent. Okay, here we see we have a look clearly on the ball for the 5 to protect that area central from a cross. Here, Brazil team is clearly obvious. We have at least 6 players who are zonal, and you see there is no player helping his goalkeeper with the opponent who was really close to the keeper. So clearly they decide to have 6 players who were only zonal and focus on defending the space and the ball, and just 3 players who are trying to do man-to-man. So clearly it's an obvious choice for the Brazilian team. So we see that 6 players who are really compact, close to the first post to do zonal. And they are really focused only on the ball. You see, they look only the ball for the most of them, and they were focused on defending that first post especially. So yeah, there is really a spotlight in terms of zonal defending corner in this World Cup. The last point, the last trends of play that we saw in this World Cup, it's about the goalkeeper. As we saw before in the statistic, we saw clearly with doing 30 passes per game, the goalkeeper were really used to build up, and also with 33% of the passes were short. Clearly the keepers, we want the keeper to build short passes with his team as much as possible. So it's something we saw in this World Cup, and we are going to see it on video. just to, before letting the video, if we remember, we see that the average position of the goalkeeper out of position, when his team is out of possession, sorry, his average position is at 12 yards. So we see here in this video that, yeah, it's about a little far away from his goal, 12 yards, or about 12 yards from his goal, that the goalkeeper is positioning when his team have not possession. So clearly, we want to anticipate and cover space. And now how quickly we can react to catch the ball and prevent that space. Yeah, here we saw we have a higher block in terms of, we say, middle line of confrontation from the blue team. So yeah, unfortunately, we don't see the positioning of the keeper. But here we saw that he's really far away from his goal, and after how we can react quickly and cover the space. And if we can, after quickly give a pass, we do it. Also in that way, you see, not on his line, and how we can quickly react and get out to catch the ball and try to avoid the opponent to score. So clearly, the goal is concentrate and quickly react, reactivity, agility, quality of sprints in very short time. We saw just before that team use wide area a lot to score. So goalkeeper have really to manage crosses. So we see here, now just to focus on how keeper try to build up and what kind of passes keeper do to be the starter of the team. So here we see cover space, take the ball, and how we could have really a very accurate pace with a player, his team who spread out a lot, and how could we really have an accurate space to find the wide area and after create an opportunity to score for his team. So clearly the first pass of the keeper was a key pass, a key trigger for his team to get forward. Here is the same from the Japanese keeper. His team spread out with very fullback eye. And how can I do a really accurate pass, on the right area for his winger and his fullback, And after we can create opportunity for his team to score. So all these actions start from the keeper. And here we see also keeper, look at the behavior, very calm, no pressure, and really concentrate to deliver a very good pass. Now we start from a goal kick. And I really want to focus, it's a detail, but how the run of the keeper, you see, don't stay in his goal. He want to really create an angle and get out of his goal to ask for the ball, create distance from the pressure, and also to prevent if he do a worse control, not to concede a goal. But clearly the aim is to create angle, create triangle, get distance, to be a player, a helping player to build up, and to be an additional player, to create numerical superiority. Perhaps in simple, but here we see just control, pass, and give the ball. And after, create chances for his team to score. So clearly, after the goal kick, the keeper must be active, not just do the pass and wait for his opponent to do. Here you see calm, and after good pass on the ground, in the space for his teammates. So clearly, we saw that the keeper is now a part of the team to create numerical advantage when we have the ball, and the keeper must know the game principle. We learn to the players from creating angle, be a support player, play on the good foot, and all that kind of stuff. So we are going close to the end of this presentation. So what I want to tell you, you see there is many statistics, many video. You can find on this video a statistic, and I really support you and encourage you to go to see that technical report. It's really interesting if you want to see what's happened in the higher level. The technical report of the technical study group of the FIFA. So you can download this report you see on the website, and inside the report you have some link to video. So clearly, do not hesitate to go have a look as a coaches or as a player. And there is many things to learn from what's happened in the higher level. So I want to thank you for your attention, and thank you also for your understanding for my English, if perhaps you did not understand everything. So perhaps if I do mistake, I hope I make this presentation interesting. And to finish, in this situation that we are facing off here in the US and in the world, my first thought go for you to take care of you and your family. So have a good end of day, and see you in another time.